Morning, everybody. Last year, we had the committee with Martha had the good sense to start encouraging the members to come up and talk a little about themselves and about their businesses, because we have a lot of outside speakers as well, and we never really get to hear about what the members are actually doing. So we were very kindly, and we feel very privileged to be asked to kick that initiative off, and I hope every year there's someone else up here talking about it. Today what we're going to do is just talk about Junkmail turned 21 this year, and we want to just talk about an incredible story that we've had at Junkmail, and at the same time mirror the 21 incredible years we've also had at ICMA and FAPIA. So, and we're going to do it together, and whenever someone's hitting a wobbly, the other one will take over. So, Gerald, I'm going to give you the...
How do you do this? You press this?
Yes, very good, Gerald.
Okay, very briefly, South African stats, just to put you up to date. These are the global stats. Interestingly enough, South Africa is actually the country, or the Pretoria is actually the capital with the second most embassies in the world after Washington. So this reflects its significance in terms of diplomatic efforts across the continent. Right, so let's talk about Junkmail between 1992 and 1997. So we launched Junkmail back 1992, so we're looking at 21 years. And I'll quickly go through this phase, what we call the good old days of the print. Now, there's one quote that actually fits best. It's Jim Morrison in A Dream. I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, Wayne's World, but build it and they will come. Oh yes, they will come. And that actually is exactly, that reflects what we did at Junkmail. So before we start, I just want to introduce you to my family. Please write down names because there'll be a written exam at the end. That's me, that's my wife, and these are our two children, Oscar and Amanda.
Where's
right.
me? Well,
Okay, this is 1992. This is how we looked like. Actually, this picture is taken on the flight to South Africa. These two little child have no idea where they're going. They've been told there's lions at the airport and they have to be careful. Look at that fear on their face. Okay, so this is basically 1992. This is how it looked then. These are one of the very first edition. Actually, this is the very, very first Junkmails. Well, I quickly want to go back to this era. Many of you here in this room were not even born then, so I would like to remind you what the world looked like then. In 1992, guys, that's how cell phones looked like. Well, I know many of you remember, but let me tell you something. In 1992, if you had a cell phone, you were someone. You held it on your belt like cowboys are holding their guns, and you showed it. Look at these babes around me. By the way, that's me. Don't tell my wife.
that is your wife.
That's my wife, yeah. Okay. But that shows you how the world has gone. You look like an imbecile now, but then boy, were you someone if you had a cell phone.
You still look like an imbecile.
Don't worry, we rehearsed and we agreed on that joke. So. That's the story of Junkmail. We started in the garage. I love to tell that story. It's not completely true because there was an office attached to this garage. But anyway, we started in a house in Pretoria, and we had a staff of 15 people. And it was one of those stories of a passionate staff. We had nothing to lose, and we had the whole world was to conquer. Now, we went mad, but we did it with a very humble resources. So we were going outside factories, giving free copies to people, talking to people. And the best way to describe what we were doing then is bold, disruptive, energetic, crazy, confident, inspiring, brave, and addictive. I mean, this is exactly this era. It's almost like a hippie era. We had no business sense. We just were passionate, and we went out and we told the world about a great idea. And if we had been playing snooker, that's how we would look. Okay, right.
That's our new office.
So we knew we only had one job to do, and that was just grow as quickly as possible. We knew we had a great idea, a great concept, which was giving free classifieds and sell them in a weekly magazine, we also knew that this idea would be copied quickly, and we knew that if we were fast and if we were good, we would take that market and we would be hard to beat. So we worked 24 hours a day, and I'm not joking. Our offices, the lights were on all the time. There were staff at night working, developing. There was no such concept as weekends. It was really entrepreneurial, full time. And I didn't even know some people that were working for us because we were hiring at a crazy rate. But anyway, those were the hippie years. We had our own distribution network, and that was one of the key issues for the success of junk mail, because all distribution networks in South Africa were owned and controlled by newspapers, which eventually would be our biggest competitors, as we were stealing classifieds from them. So we decided to launch our own distribution. What you see here is a nice little FAPIA story. ICMA then was then called FAPIA. You see this cardboard stand, which classified printed on it. That stand was actually an idea that I copied from another ICMA member, because in those years, everyone used to bring copies of their papers or ideas that actually they were using, and that's very cheap and quickly to produce, and it made an incredible impact. We were one of the very first newspapers in South Africa to have stands, and in the marketplace, it made a big difference, and immediately, this was one of the key issues of getting junk mail to the public. In the face, and if you dare yourself calling junk mail and have this, you gotta be good. And that's actually was one of the key issues. And that was, again, thanks to ICMA. This reflects this time. You can see the money on the table. These are the drivers coming back from delivering papers, cashing in, and then people would sit and count the money and bank it. So this is really like a little family grocery store. That's how we started. And quickly, it took off. Within a year, we had 8,000 ads. We were selling 10,000 copies. I mean, the first edition, we sold 150 copies, to give you an idea. We had 2,000 shops. And these kind of pictures, I have many. We kept on we records, more sales, more ads, more papers sold, more outlets. And, we told it to the public because, of course, success breeds success. So we kept on going, biggest ever, best ever, blah, blah, blah. And that really worked for us. And what about FAPIA during this time? Well, ICMA was then called FAPIA, which meant Free Ad Paper International Association. This is a publisher meeting. You see, much smaller. We had less members. It was more a club. It was a closed club. It only had people that were publishing newspapers, or weekly papers. It didn't have any other players. And it had a funny rule where if you were first in that club, if I was in South Africa, no one else from South Africa could be in. So I could veto any other members. So it was a very restricted club it was like a monopoly. And eventually it had to be stopped because it actually broke European Union monopoly rules. And that's why we changed it to ICMA later on. That's the only decent picture I could show of Felix. Any other one he doesn't have any clothes on. So there was a lot of friendship, of course, as Martha mentioned.
Check it
right.
Yeah.
See, I did less than 10 minutes.
Well done, Gerald. Take the rest of the day off.
Thank you.
So the second important phase in junk mail can be summed up from 98 to 2005. That's when I actually joined the company, was in 98. And funnily enough, I started in the classified business in South Africa almost the same day as Gerald. But I was his competitor.
A week later, I checked.
A week later. But I was his competitor. And we actually got to know each other through a collaboration we wanted to do. But I was, at that stage, running Auto Trader magazine. And when I met Gerald in his office, with the garage attached to it, I was so amazed at this buzz and energy. And when I met Gerald, I loved him immediately because
But you didn't tell me that.
I told you last night, Gerald, when I nibbled your earlobe. But anyway, this guy, he came into his office. He was very friendly, open. He had a fridge in his office full of drinks, saying, would you want a beer? And it was like 11 o'clock in the morning. And I was from Auto Trader, which was UK-based, very rigid, very organized, very efficient. And there's this guy but his team have got a buzz behind them. And it was clear after that meeting with Gerald, it was love. But anyway, that's how you could depict those 8 years that we had. So when I joined the company in '98, junk mail went through a phase from pioneers, from breaking down doors, to one of becoming more organized and structured. And we built a massive sales team, and we built junk mail around a strong sales operation, because one thing that was clear, that junk mail was a household name in '98. They'd done it very quickly, and it was a very well-established brand already.
Right. One of the key issues, we embraced the internet very quickly. As a matter of fact, almost too quickly. In 1997, junk mail launched its first website, which was revolutionary, as people didn't even know what the internet was, especially in South Africa. This is our first website, by the way. You can see it's the Fapia there. That's an interesting story, and going back after all these years, there's a couple of key lessons to be taken there. But sadly, we were very successful with it. And I'll tell you why I say sadly, because we were so arrogant and so successful with our print that we thought, stuff this free concept will put people to pay, because they pay for a magazine. We're not going to give our classifieds out for free. We're good. We can afford to charge. And guess what? They did pay. And that's the problem. Because had they told us, F off, you bunch of whatever, I would have said, yeah, sure, oh, whoa, good warning from the market. But they did pay. And they paid a lot. We had thousands and thousands of people immediately paying for what we all give for free. So this misled us to believe that we had the formula right. And we made a lot of money. I mean, even though we don't make that much money or that much profit online that we, compared to what we were making then.
You don't make any profit online.
Right, so the lesson there was sometimes it's dangerous to be successful too early, because what happened next was, of course, we opened the door to competitors like Gumtree and many others who came with a free model. And boy, did those paying customers leave us quickly then. And by the time we realized, shit, we've got to do something about that, it was already very late. We did, and you will see that later. But we were penalized by the fact of being successful, which is a strange thing to say. I wish we would have not been successful, because we would have been slapped and we would have already immediately taken action.
But times were so good that we started building our company around verticals, knowing that they're very strong products. And it was such an incredible time. We thought we were such heroes. Everything we did, whether it was a magazine or website, was successful immediately. Even our failures were profitable. And we really could do no wrong. We had we had the Midas touch. It was, we just thought, we are the best in this business. And it was an incredible experience. ICMA during this time also went through quite a massive change. As Gerald mentioned earlier, it used to be Fapia and it was a closed club. Now the EU rules said you've got to make it open. And you don't have to be a free ad publisher anymore. We lowered the restriction to get in so that we would get more members.
Yeah, the club of old boys was getting drier and smaller. Some of them were dying, or others were busy selling their papers.
This is my part, you know that. So, and the membership changed big time. You guys, the old members were being replaced by smarter, better looking, more intelligent, more energetic members. Like this one.
Now, Felix, let's go back to this picture. See, that's nice when you hold the sticker. Power is here. Right. This picture really highlights it. It went from a beer drinker boys club to a more sophisticated cocktail. So James no beer. But hold on. What are these glasses? That's free beer. Right. So this time, during all this time, a lot of things happened, and those were what I would call the dark days of the association, because I don't know, some of you might know this little man there. His name is John McBain, and he's not a publisher. He's a banker originally. I mean, that was his job, and he realized there was a lot of opportunity to make money, and he came into the association and started buying members, and he started putting them together and growing this thing big. So what happened next is that the association became a shopping basket for him, and it became a trade show for many members who came here starting to put big presentation, lying about themselves because they knew Mr. McBain would be listening and valuing them more. So the association became a pissing contest. And quickly there was a lot of tension. There were literally physical fist fights taking place at some parties here. So bad it was. And there was a point where we almost thought, it's pointless, we've got to close it down. But okay, I mean, there were incredible stories like loot being bought for hundreds of millions of pounds. I mean, you know all the details, Rob. And later on being resold for half less, and then 6 months later for again half less, showing how crazy and wrongly valued everything was. So these were the time of the hype of the internet, and everything was totally out of control. And we became part of that. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. Then what we started seeing was, for the first time, as a publishing association, we got pure online members. And Mark Platz, I think, Rob, when you joined, they actually came and did a presentation. A private family who'd had this website, and they came and stood up and gave us a presentation about their business, and then said to us all that they're going to destroy us all in the next 5 years because they're going global. And this was one of the first internet-only companies that had interaction with us. And that was quite bold to say that. eBay actually bought them 2 years later. I almost think, thank God, because eBay cocked it up so that we weren't all taken over in the next 5 years. But these guys were amazing. And we had a lot of youngsters coming in, and they had these websites, and they were looked stupid and silly, and they were making money, and they were struggling. But their stories were very interesting. And you could almost compare it to how we were when we started our print publications. These were the same guys, but online only. So we knew that things were changing, and things would never be the same again. So from 2005, from being heroes, from getting a bigger and bigger ego every time we left ICMA because we're doing so well, this probably best depicts that era, because from 2006 onwards, we just, for the first time ever, started to have a decline in everything that we did. Our circulation started dropping. Our commercial ads revenue...
Wait, when did you start again?
Our commercial ads, this is actually when you came back to South Africa.
Yeah, you're right.
And online, the online industry was starting to really dig into our market. So whilst it wasn't a disaster, it was for the first time ever, after 15 or 16 years, that this growth culture that we had in our business came to a halt and turned. And it was a very difficult turning point, crossroads. It was coupled also by the economic crisis, which made it even more difficult. And so we went through I went through a very, as I said before, crossroads in my life, because I thought, I realized, I wasn't actually as good as I thought. The market made me look good. And now, if you ever want to have a future in this business, you better realize what you're good at and what you can fix. And there was a lot of soul searching there. Do you even want to continue? I mean, it's amazing when your confidence gets shattered in business and how you regroup, and you go through some very low times, but they're very important. At the same time, we also have to think, what is junk mail going to be in the next 5 years? It's clear we cannot continue like we are, and we had to really look, what is our business about? Why have we taken a hit? how can we come back? And these were all very difficult questions. And one day, I'm going to answer them. But during that time, something very important gave us the biggest slap in our face. We had a venture capitalist company called Tiger Global, one of the biggest investors in online businesses, and they came to South Africa, and they said, we want to have a look at junk mail. And we thought, yes, it's a no-brainer. They're going to invest with us. And they took a look at our business. I prepared a prospectus that would do Wall Street proud. It was the hardest 30 minutes of my life. And then we sent it to them, and they came back and they said they're not interested. And we asked why, and they said because you've got too much print attached to your business. And from that day, I think answers became clearer, and we took a rigorous approach to separate these two businesses. Print will always have its place, but digital will take the lead. Because I don't know if you remember that Time magazine front cover where the person of the year was you, because Web 2.0 had come to the world en masse, and the internet changed forever from there on. And then it started making massive inroads into our business, the classified business, and things will never be the same from that time. So we are now a very focused on digital. As I said, print has its place, and it's run like a well-oiled machine, but it's only going to go down, and digital is where we're putting our bets and where we're putting our energies. So ICMA during this time, well, ICMA became totally digital. I don't think one person's put a paper out this time. I haven't seen any. And for the last 10 years, and greatly so, ICMA has only been discussing digital. And at a time where we've had a lot of experts tell us how to run our businesses, from Google, Gumtree have been here, eBay, Oodle came here to talk about the classifieds business. And we'd been there a lot longer and knew a lot more. I mean, in this room, the classified knowledge, eBay wouldn't be able to pay enough to get that type of knowledge. And also during this time, there was a lot of smoke, and there was always a new trend. I'd come to an ICMA meeting, and all of a sudden Groupon was the best thing since sliced bread. And everyone had a coupon website, and then it's Go Slow-Mo or Loco-Mo, but on mobile. Social media, has anyone figured out what the hell's going on in social media? So it's, there were trends all the time about new things, doing this, doing that. And this association has been very embracive of it, which is great. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to what you're good at and sticking to our knitting. And there's some incredible success stories that were early members, still in the Fapia days. And one here, Kwaka.de, Patrick Gunter over here. He's been in this business a long time. In the IT game, when it was still this massive paper organization. And now Kwaka is the second biggest classified site in Germany. It was here, and their competitor, Kijiji and eBay, were there. And now it's sitting here, 10 million unique visitors. You can teach an old dog new tricks, for sure, and Kwaka is a great example. I urge you guys to speak to Patrick in the next few days. He doesn't talk a lot, so you've got to get it out of him, but it's an incredible story. DBA.dk, the classified market, they were one of the earliest members there, Gerald.
Yeah,
and
one of the founding members.
Free Ad Paper. And they sold their business, they beat Loot, they sold their business for 190 million euro. 190 million euro. I can't even count up to 190 million. And these guys, and that was 3 years ago that they sold that, 3 years. And they had transformed their classified business into a totally online business. So that was incredible. And so we want to end off this session about the key learnings that we've had in the last 20 years. For me, the first one is that right now, everything is takeable. Your market, that's either good news or bad news for you. It's good news if you want to go for it. It's bad news if you're a market leader and think you're untouchable. So it's incredible. The Quokka.de story, the Auto Trader in our country especially, all these big guys who've been around for a long time and have been able to protect their markets in the good old days are all taking heavy hits now. And so that should be very inspirational to you.
Right, my first key learning is this one. Trust yourself. And I love Henry Ford's famous statement for this. If I had listened to what customers wanted, I would have got them faster horses. And that is so true in our business. Trust yourself. Trust the fact that you've been 20 years, or in our case, more than 20 years doing this. We know the industry, and sometimes it's not as much as to listen too much to what people have to say, because what people will tell you is what they've learned or what they've experienced through others. So sometimes you've got to trust the fact that you can come up with ideas, concepts, designs that actually haven't yet been put on the market. 9 out of 10 won't work, but boy, will that 10th one work and make you a legend. So we've seen it in the print, and we've seen it online. Sometimes you really have to really trust the fact that you know something your customers don't yet, and they love you for that.
I love you, Gerald. Share. I think this is a brilliant lesson that I learned from Gerald. He's been like a father to me, Gerald.
Felix, I've got bad news. I am your father.
No, that is bad news. So when I first met Gerald, and we were competitors, and I was even searched at the door, which I still am quite upset about. But
but you said you liked it.
We were competitors, and I was very guarded. And Gerald was so open. He was showing us his map and his distribution points and his commercial ads team. And I mean, I was his most serious competitor after the newspaper. And I was amazed by the openness that he showed. And I think he got that from the ICMA Association, very much so. And that's something I've always kept and have used, because I feel what you give is what you get at ICMA.
Let me stop you there, because we've got time, so we're doing really well. I'll tell you a true story, which is actually unbelievable. It's a legendary story, and that happened at ICMA or FAPIA then. And that so highlights what you're saying. 1991, so way back, there's a FAPIA meeting in Vancouver, Canada. And at that stage, I'm a young publisher in Finland, and still very, very small and not very rich, and looking for anything that can help me grow my business. In Canada, as a true ICMA member, or FAPIA member then, I thought, you know what? I've learned about this cardboard stand, the picture you saw early on, the newspaper stand made of cardboard. Let me bring one to Vancouver, because I had, at the previous meeting, or a year before that, taken a copy home from Bloavis, who traveled all the way with those folded stands. Now imagine from Finland to Vancouver, that's literally across the world. So it's quite a mission. And we had a flight, Helsinki, Los Angeles, Vancouver. And we took 3 of these stands with us. But we had a stopover in LA, and that was our first time ever in LA. So we went for a couple of hours just quickly to see the city. Those stands were so big, and they would not fit in luggage, so we had to take them as a hand luggage. And they would have been damaged anyway. So now we are walking around LA with these stands. And of course, as the story has it, we take a taxi to town, to a pub, and we forget those stands in the taxi. Can you believe it? So anyway, to make a long story short, we're busy having drinks, and we realize, oh, okay, well, we've lost the stands. Oh, damn it. Okay, well, so much for the stands. In LA, there probably is one taxi driver who's honest. And we hit the right one. He comes back. I mean, an hour later, he's looking for us with those stands. He says, hey, you forgot this in my taxi. So we were so grateful. So anyway, we make it to the meeting in Vancouver later on. I put these stands on display. Now, you have to know, junk mail, actually, we talked in 1992, but it was started in 1991. I talk of my era. It was started a year before me, and by a German partner called Bernd Kubler, and he was actually in partnership with a South African lady. She was at that meeting in Vancouver, and Bernd Kubler, who was then just a friend, he wasn't my partner yet, asked me if I could spend time with her to talk about distribution. And so I spent time with her. Sure, did we talk about distribution? And I said to her, look, take one of those stands back home, because this is the best thing you can do, honestly. So I made sure to fold one for her, and I gave it to her. Anyway, as life goes sometimes, 6 months later, she's out of business. She's ruined the company, and Bernd Kubler has bought her out and looked for a new partner, me in this instance. And you saw that picture with my 2 children in the plane. Now, during that flight, I'm thinking, okay, what are my first actions? What must I do? And I'm thinking, I must do stands. I must do those newspaper stands. And I knew that this takes time, because you have to get the first one done takes about 6 weeks to 8 weeks. And I knew time was counted, so time was limited. So I was thinking, the first thing I'm doing when I'm in SA, I'm getting quotes for doing stands. And you usually do about 1,000 at a time, because it's not worth doing less. So. And I had been told there's nothing going on. There's no distribution. It's a disaster. And it was. When I arrived in South Africa, the newspaper was still lying in the office. Can you believe it? So anyway, I'm thinking, oh, OK, I really need to do these stands, but I'm going to lose 8 weeks. And I'm asking the staff to show me around. And they take me to this garage. I opened the door, and hallelujah, there's 1,000 stands ready. She had done what I told her, this lady. She had copied the stands, but she never put them out. So this is an incredible story of me helping someone, and it so came back to me 6 months later, thanks to sharing, and that's actually so true. If you share, it will actually come back.
Sharing is caring.
Anyway, you carry.
And what's important, thank you for that, Gerald, but I urge you guys, talk to each other, and it's usually the quiet ones who have the most interesting stories as well.
But so you mean you're boring?
What we've got out of ICMA is worth every cent, and we've paid a fortune. We bring guys here from South Africa, sometimes 5, and every cent is worth it, except that one time when no, never mind. So we share, and we share knowledge, and we take knowledge. And here's a good example of giving and taking. And as I said, Gerald taught me the sharing philosophy. He has encouraged me to do it. So,
but that's my wife, Felix.
That's Gerald's wife.
OK, on a more serious note, another major key learning, and that is, take it from someone who's been only doing classifieds his whole life. I started, I was 21. Nothing has changed. Everything has changed. Nothing has changed because we're still in the very business of successfully linking buyers and sellers, successfully linking job seekers and employers, romance seekers, and so on. This hasn't changed. And if you forget this, I promise you, you'll be out of business. So that's the core. That's your target. And that's our target, and that's what we do. But everything has changed because the business model has been kicked so hard in part of the bodies I don't want to even mention, but the business model has been reversed completely from free paid to free to paid free and so on. So the way we monetize and the way we support this is now completely different from what it was then. So that's actually a very it's a key learning because I've seen many making the mistake of getting too fancy and putting what we call the cartridge before the horses. The fact that you want to build an e-commerce before you even have a successful classified website, that's stupid. And believe me, many people do that. Many people come up with great concepts, but they forget that if you are in the classified business, you first have to guarantee successful transactions between buyers and sellers.
Good one. Burak, welcome, eh? Nice to have you here. Aren't you wearing the same clothes as last night? Next key learning is be brave, be bold.
Now, this picture is real, by the way.
This is at the ICMA in Munich, and it's a long story.
This was the most expensive bailout I had to pay for Felix out of jail.
I've been in a German jail. And it's not bad, actually. I think too often this has happened a lot, and I've seen publishers that have actually closed their doors. A competitor comes into the market, a big competitor, lots of money, lots of supposedly skills, knowledge, and people close their doors, they capitulate, they don't want to go into a fight with them. But you can fight them. There's different ways. You can't fight them with their money and their networking, but you can fight them. So be brave and be bold, because there were many fights that I thought I don't want to have, and in the end decided, yes, we can do it. Let's go for it. Some we've lost, but we've won more than we've lost. So be brave and be bold when trying new things and taking on competitors.
Okay, and the last key learning, adapt or die. We've often had these, nice wordings in meetings. We've talked about that, adapt or die. As far as I'm concerned, it's not enough. Everyone does that. Everyone adapts or dies. I mean, so what? It's nothing new. This is how we think now, anticipate or die. I often think like a Formula One driver. If you come into the curve too fast and it's too late, you're going to miss that curve. You brake before the curve and you accelerate in the curve. And that's exactly what we do. Now we don't really anymore wait for things to happen to us and decide to change our strategy. We think ahead and we actually decide on strategies before they are even needed. And boy, do we apply them. And that's to me the biggest key learning in all those years we can't afford anymore to react to the market. We know that market and we take action. And of course, sometimes we get it wrong. But as I said, when you get it right, boy, does it pay for you.
That's it.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. That's so good.
That's good.